In the future, there still is space, and we're seeing the Federation and much, much more. It's your boy Flobito, Commander Flobito of the USS Postshow. This is Commander's Log, the unofficial post-show for Star Trek Discovery, presented by Geek Renaissance. Learn more about Geek Renaissance over at Geek Renaissance on Instagram. But as always, I am not alone. First, my captain, oh my captain, he knows a thing or two about starburps. Give it up for John Weber.
Number one, you are number one. Thank you so much for making me your
really cheap.
Yeah. Well, I'm really embracing the idea. You wanted me to be the captain. I was so embarrassed by that, but I'm really embracing it now.
You said the ship will be doomed. That's what you said, literally. The ship will be doomed if you were captain.
I'm like the Jellicoe. Do you remember Jellicoe? I'm like the terrible captain that everybody has to kind of work around. That's the kind of captain I like to be.
I'm glad you're here, man. That makes me look so good.
Yeah.
But we are not alone. We have a man here who is an author, Star Trek fan, and, quote, a guy who isn't clinically nor emotionally dead. Give it up for Joe Townsel, man. Thanks for on board this week.
More complimentary words are never spoken, Flobo. Thank you.
Broadcasting live from the shuttlecraft, right?
Yes, please. If I write it right, there's a shuttlecraft behind me. I'm prepared.
This feels like original Star Trek Columbia when they crashed on that planet and the giant cavemen were throwing rocks and spears.
That's right. I think I might hear them now.
I just want to thank everyone who's watching right now on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Twitter. And if you're on Twitch, man, hit a subscribe, hit a follow. Gotta get those numbers up because I live for algorithms. Okay, so today's episode of Star Trek Discovery was called Die Trying. Joe Townsel, you are our guest. Just overall thoughts of the show. What made you feel? Things you liked, things you didn't like. What was your overall impression of this week's episode?
Well, I tell you, I'm a huge Star Trek fan from way back, my whole life, as we discussed, and I find very little, if anything, to dislike about this episode. I really like the direction this season is taking as far as its story arc. I think it was the right move to put them in the far future because I was one of those that had a little bit of trouble, even given the visual reboot, as far as this was taking place before Kirk and Spock. Oh, okay, but now it's like totally expected what we're seeing. As far as this particular episode, wow, what a huge leap forward in terms of the continuity, the storyline, the Federation and Starfleet both being diminished to where they are, but still strong in their own way. And of course, the crew of Discovery adding to that strength, even though it was a little bit of a hard sell for the Admiral this time. So I really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to what's coming next because, wow, talk about a story arc, rebuilding the Federation and Starfleet. You can't get more ambitious than that.
With really high stakes.
Exactly.
That's some super high stakes. Now, Joe, you're an author. Is this a great writerly approach, do you think? Does this, as an author, really kind of tickle your fancy?
Yes, it actually does, and I'll tell you why. Because it's unfolding. It's not slow. There's things happening. Pace is quick, action-packed, but there is a story unfolding over the course of the entire season, which we've come to love from the Discovery series in particular. Harkening back to things like Deep Space Nine, it also had a little bit of serialization happening there. So yes, from an author's point of view, I mean, the way that the events are unfolding, the character development, and character is huge in Star Trek. It's what distinguishes us from Star Wars fans, which I also am. But from a writer's point of view, author's point of view, I really dig the how the story's unfolding and how it's playing out. Absolutely.
Well, that's great to hear, man. And John, I know last week we were saying, last week that it was great too, but it was very more contained. It was like a bottle episode with the Dira story, even though the Dira kind of disappears in this week. Thoughts about the episode?
that brings up an interesting point too. But that kind of takes me back to what I always loved about The Next Generation, which was once you got settled into this is your main crew, your bridge crew, these are the people we're going to follow, then there'd be like there'd be the Worf episode, the Data episode, the Geordi episode. And I liked that. I liked kind of, this lazy Susan, that's not a good word, but this rotation.
But I know what you meant.
of kind of get to know your family here.
Mhm.
And everything about Discovery is so not how they used to do it. I kind of
Mhm.
love that too.
Yeah.
Well, I love
So-
it too for this approach for sure. I mean, I do. Alex Kurtzman is getting a lot of criticism and flack. I think it's unwarranted, quite frankly. He's trying to do something different.
Yeah.
And I tell you, every Star Trek series that's going into production is something different from each other. We're going to get our episodic character of the week, plan of the week approach in Strange New Worlds. That's what we've been promised. I'm looking forward to that tremendously.
Yeah.
Love the character from season 2 of Discovery with Pike and Spock and number 1 there.
Oh, yeah.
So, Discovery is all about an ongoing story. It's an ensemble. I mean, clearly Michael Burnham is the front runner. That was always true from the beginning. But I think for me at the very beginning it was a little hard to get in there because when you don't know the names of all the bridge crew, that's different.
Right.
Now we're learning more about them, and as soon as you know more about them, they get written out.
It's true. So like we're looking at the Kurtzman universe, and we're talking about Discovery, Picard, even shows like Lower Decks, Prodigy, Strange New Worlds. That's Section 31. It's a lot, and thankfully for from my perspective, coming from a new fan, seeing all this stuff means wow, these people must care about this property. They're doing so much more with it. Also heard the flip side of it's all a cash grab. You know what I mean? It's not my thing. Joe, if you've ever listened to these shows, I go on about two things, and that's Green Lantern when it comes to the space stuff, and Archie comics. Because I'm an Archie fan. Jughead is my homeboy because growing up, he liked cheeseburgers as much as I like cheeseburgers. You know what I'm saying? But when they came out with Riverdale as a show, I had a crisis of faith. It was, wow, this was not the Archie comics I grew up with. How dare they do this? And honestly, I walked away from it. But I do realize that for a lot of people, Archie wouldn't be on their minds without Riverdale. So it's important.
Right.
So that's why I live and let live. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Create new fans. Nothing wrong with that. I was all about that with the Star Wars, speaking of which, and I know some Star Trek fans go crazy when you mention Star Wars. Hey, it's a big universe. We can love it all.
Well, you don't confuse the two. That's the pet peeve.
You probably like
That's
DC
true.
and Marvel. You're a
Right.
Hopper. One of the cool things I liked about this episode is that we see the Federation and Starfleet before the opening break. Like they don't take the time, they don't draw it out. There's no asteroid storm. There's no like random side quest. They get right to it, and
Where'd they go? They went.
They went. That's totally been on brand for them because I felt like the first season of Discovery was like 3 seasons into one, and it's kind of spoiled me to go back to like a show like Next Generation where it's like, oh, that much happens. But off the bat, we meet Admiral Vance, who is a complex man, but he's really rough. I thought he was kind of strong. I enjoyed him. Before we get to the nitty gritty of Joe Townsel, as someone in that space, right fantasy, right sci-fi. How does this work for characterization's concerned? How do you introduce someone that has that much history and has that much character depth, but to these new characters and to the audience is like a blank slate?
Well, I tell you, there's nothing more engrossing and satisfying as the
You can love both, James. I'm sorry. I'm trying to cut you. You can like both. You can like both universes. Sorry, you were saying
You have to choose. Come on.
No, I was saying the tried and true fish out of water concept is always intriguing and engrossing it for me, and that's exactly what we got here. What were they? You saw their awe and wonderment when they entered the area where all the ships were maintaining the distorted space zone, and that was a very positive, very very fun thing. And if I may be so bold as to point out one Easter egg, I know that John has picked out several, but seeing Voyager was quite a treat. And I actually had to rewind a bit just to see the serial registry. Oh, yeah, it was NCC 74656. That's Voyager.
Of all ships. Voyager.
Yeah, well, it should have ended up.
I hate on Voyager so bad.
Your favorite Star Trek of all time. That's what I'm so eager to see. This is John's favorite. Netflix even said it in Star. John's favorite.
This is what modern Trek is all about. Modern Trek is going to find a way to find something that was unpopular and go, nope, you love it. You love it.
So this is totally off topic, but I watched Lower Decks, which I'm a huge fan of, and there was a scene in a late season. Not trying to spoil anything, but like one of the characters has like a bunch of junk in her closet, and it opens up, and out of the junk was like the old school Spock helmet with like the siren on top. It's like Spock. So it's now canon. It's like so random. It's so random. The Spock helmet is now canon. Just letting you guys know.
Speaking of things that are non-canon, I mean, I'm very gratified that TOS is finally canon.
Yeah, it's all canon now.
Yep.
And Pike, you know?
Yeah. Oh shoot! I never even considered that.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Go from the wonderment of the space vessel, the starships, and going into, the government area, and it suddenly takes a little bit of a turn. Okay, things aren't so hunky dory; they're not so wonderful, and following him. And there are challenges ahead. So I think that was just set up wonderfully in the first 5 minutes of the episode.
Yeah,
it's so funny because it reminded me of all my painful experiences of starting a new job, and everybody being like, "So, what's your first impression?" And you're like, "Well, it seems like this, this, and this," and they're like, "No, it isn't. You don't know any."
Look at the new guy getting things wrong.
And so you got the badass from Mummy, the Mummy film. You got Oded Fair as Admiral Vance. And I'd like to throw one more crazy stupid thing for my own life. So I was in the Star Trek shit posters group because I thought the memes were pretty funny, but the people posting are such shit posters that I just couldn't do it anymore. So I went to join the real Star Trek Facebook fan group.
Oh yeah, and drop our links in there.
And I got to tell you, join because it looks really fun, and I'd love to have friends in there. But
I'm already
the weird, are you in there?
Yeah.
Did you?
I will be. I will be.
Excellent, Joe. Excellent. So, Joe, I got to warn you. There's like a page-long form of questions you need to answer just to make sure you're actually a fan and everything that you like about Trek, you understand the rules and all those things.
Sure.
One of the questions they asked was, what division would you be in if you were in Starfleet? What division?
Well, command, of course. Look, I'm wearing red right now.
That's right through. That's right through it.
Well, we'd be an engineer, guys. No, all right, fine.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm terrible at engineering. I was like, what division has the ship's counselors? Because I think I could do that job.
Yep.
And I think that's a command job, actually.
Would be sciences because she wears the blue.
Is that science? Oh, okay, that's science.
Yeah.
Yep.
So is Burnham technically. I think she's like a Santa. She's a science commander.
Yeah, she's a science officer. Yeah, that's true. And then I went over to BuzzFeed and I took one of those. What rank would you be in Star Trek?
Broke it probably. They're like, oh damn, he's hot. He could be anything.
Okay, this is how bad the BuzzFeed quiz is. I would be an admiral.
See? I told you. You broke it. Shut up, Wesley. The guy gets to be the Admiral. That's cool.
Which comes right back around to Admiral Vance, where I go, oh, because I'm a jerk.
Well, I was going to suggest that you would be much less grim than Admiral Vance.
He's really grim.
He sees some stuff. Admiral Vance sees some stuff. I like the fact, though, that he had his own reasons, logical reasons, why he wasn't eager to help the onboard crew of the Discovery, like just enough to be like, oh, he's right. But can't you tell that Michael Burnham is being sincere? Look at her eyes, bro. And
hey, there's no nonsense, and he got your heart at the end when he said, "Welcome home." He's not the stereotypical mentally ill ambassador or admiral that you other Star Trek efforts. Thank God.
Yeah.
They always go bad. Yeah. You notice that the admirals always go bad. Kirk was an admiral for, like, in Star Trek terms, a minute, and then they downgraded him back down to captain, and then all of us took a big breath because admirals just do not stay. They go bad like an avocado.
That's right.
The most fattiest. Okay, so and of course he was accompanied by Lieutenant Willa, who was even more icy with her response probably later on. So jumping ahead a bit, I did like the scene when they were the Discovery was on that mission. We'll get to in a minute, where they basically Burnham basically like did commands rings around Willa. She was like, "You're doing a good team," and Burnham's like, "I don't care what you think." It was totally the best comeuppance for that cold reception they got there. I have a question though, because I need your opinion about this.
Mm-hmm.
So the Discovery trying to find Starfleet, trying to see what's happening. They're stretching out this mystery of the burn, right? They're getting closer. You know, Vance at the end, he's like, I have theories, but I don't really know what that is. Just personally, how long do you think you can go until the burn becomes a maddening storyline? Because I felt personally the Red Angel was great, but it was one episode a little bit too late that I would have liked the answer to. Is that kind of like a fantasy booking question, I guess? How many episodes do you personally?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, think of it this way, Flobo. I mean, if this was last season, 14 episodes, this one's 13. That would have been your one less episode, I guess, if they'd gone that length. So maybe they're not as far as the length. But to answer your question about the burn, yeah, we need answers, pretty quick. I mean, because just knowing what it is specifically, 1 or 2, 3 episodes down the line at the most, doesn't mean the story's over for this year.
Yeah,
you got to go from there. So I think I'm predicting we'll see a resolution in terms of the scientific explanation of that pretty quick. I don't think they're going to drag that out very much.
I hope so. I hope you're right, Joe. And I definitely agree with you, Flobo. This has turned into a MacGuffin that's really kind of heavy and kind of slowing us down. Kind of hard to take a lot of steps here when we don't know what we're fighting.
Yeah.
Or what the, what the heart of this, what we need in a lot of science fiction is who's the bad guy? Who's Bad Wolf? Who are we going to finally find behind the curtain? And it would be really nice to know if there was someone to blame for the burn.
Yeah. Who could it be?
I don't think it's going to be a natural phenomenon. I think that definitely was, a major attack. And I have to say, I mean, just if I may, just harking back to last week, as far as beginning of concept we're seeing, Star Trek has always been known, of course, for putting in science fiction terms current events, and I think this is definitely no exception. I mean, what if the United States was suddenly reduced down to the size of New Jersey?
Oh,
but it wasn't in New Jersey, somewhere else. So there are definitely xenophobic themes, I think, happening here, and I think we saw a little bit of that in this week's episode, and a little bit of a thawing of that. So definitely a great challenge to overcome in this season.
It's not xenophobia. You're talking about New Jersey. That place deserves it. Just real quick, where do you think Adira went? I was hoping there would be a resolution to that. Do you think she's still being scanned? Do you think something else happened to her? Just curious.
Are my lovely redheaded angel Detmer? Is that?
No, Adira Tal. She was on the.
Adira Tal.
Her. She's not redhead at all.
I'll tell you what. She is not Wesley Crusher. All I need, and I love Will Wheaton. I think Will Wheaton has made a tremendous career for himself. God bless him. But Wesley Crusher really worked my nerves for many, many years there. And I'm okay with the deer. It's part of this too is I always have to wonder: is it due to my age? And now I feel like a fatherly love to so many people on TV. Like, oh, be nice to Tilly. I love her, and I do feel that way. Don't ever say anything bad about Tilly around me. Yeah, Joe, I have to tell you, I call this show Star Trek Redheads because between Stamets, Tilly, and Detmer, I just have all these redheaded kids I'm very protective of. Be nice to my gingers.
If T. Louise walks in there, then that's it. We definitely.
Brandon, you're
exactly. I'm really getting messed up with that one, aren't I?
Let's put a mystery at hand, right? We have, I'm going to write this down, the Keeley are somehow suffering from this condition where it looks like they're going to perish due to ingesting some radiated materials or genetically changed materials. And so the cool thing that Burnham knows out of her pocket is that the U.S. Teakoff have the seed spores. They're going to go out there. Now, before we get to the USS Teakoff, which, again, it's a cool idea, I do think Vance was kind of put over Bauer here, right? Because, you know, Suru and Michael were having their little bit of a conflict there about how hard to push back. But it was really that one stop from Michael being like, look, fool, you got to go on the ship. And Van's like, all right, fine, whatever. Really change the tide. Joe, what do you think?
Well, I have to say, you know, as far as a commanding officer in the form of Captain Suru, he speaks up when he needs to. He doesn't when he needs to. I think letting Michael speak within limits to the Admiral the way she did, getting the I think he kind of maneuvered the Admiral almost saying, yeah, I'll stay with you and
so?
let my number one take it, you know, take discovery to get to the seat. So a little bit like if you think way back when, a little bit like Kirk kind of sitting back, letting Spock, you know, question Khan for a while in Space Seed.
Oh,
I definitely saw a correlation there.
Spicy.
Wow. That's
Let
interesting.
the burn of the you know, verbal abuse from the Admiral, but I'll just sit back and kind of, you know, monitor things. So I think it worked out really well. So
and that's actually that's very classic Next Generation as well, because you could always count on Will Riker to be the swaggering guy, and Jean-Luc Picard could sit back and let Riker do the, you know, the dickishness, the being the tough guy. Yeah, I always liked that, and you're right, that did happen here.
So
I think it was intentional. Actually, it just seemed like it was such a on the mark approach to getting what they wanted as far as going after the other ship to get the, you know, the plants they needed and so forth. Yeah,
I just love that line. Oh, go ahead, Flip.
No, it's spicy thing, but I'm inclined to agree. I said when Burnham talks to the Admiral about you and about going, and Suru says, has that look in his face that says, this is wrong, but I'm going to point the Burnham bazooka at you, bro. I don't know why I wrote down bro, but it's true. It's there.
So
sorry, you were
funny.
saying, John?
Oh, I just love that line where she's like, if we could get our hands on this and then show them. And he's like, get our hands on?
Yeah, you know, steal, pilfer, rob.
There are moments where now I don't know if I've ever brought this up on this show before, Flobo, so it's about to get weird. Sorry, Joe, but I used to watch.
Weird for 20 minutes.
I used to watch Project Runway a lot with my wife.
A lot.
And I loved Tim Gunn. I thought Tim Gunn was just a great leader and a good father figure. And there are times, and I don't know anything about Doug Jones. I met him once, and he was just the nicest guy in the world. But I'm not making any connections here. But there are times when Suru sounds to me like Tim Gunn. Like, really? That's what you would do?
Yeah, it's very proper because it's a cool dynamics hit for what I'm seeing of what small Star Trek I've seen compared to you guys of like having the captain be like, I believe that order, that you're out of line, and number one being like, oh, me and we should do this. You have someone who's as logical and based as Michael, but then you have someone who's like reserved, being like, I disagree. I don't think that works. I think that's a cool dynamic you don't quite see as often. It can get old, but right now I'm loving it because they found a way to show Suru being able to put his hoof down, but without him being a different character altogether. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. And he's very...
There's such a thing in Starfleet. You can also they're co-captains, you know, in a way. One has to outrank the other, but it's almost like they're two halves of the same whole at this point, which I find, you know, very interesting.
Which makes me wonder if you are absolutely right, both of you, about sort of weaponizing Burnham with her sort of, you know, hot-headed ideas, and he can be that much cooler if she's that much hotter. That yin-yang balance. And a very smart, like, dispassionate person would do that as a leader. I'm going to have my idea people be very fiery, but I'm the cool one, and I'll cool everything down with the final decision.
Oh, that's a cool one.
Almost good cop, bad cop in a way.
Yes.
Wait, which cop are you, Joe?
What's that?
Which cop would you be? Which cop would you be?
Oh, I'd be the bad cop. Look at this.
I mean, no one wants to be the good cop. Like, that's kind of out of the ordinary. Before we move on to our next topic, I just want to say that this show, Commander's Log, is brought to you apart by Geek Renaissance. Geek Renaissance, make sure you get all ready and willing and go for the holiday season. Check out Geek Renaissance. Instagram. They got earrings, they have keychains, all fun stuff, all celebrating nerd and geek culture at Geek Renaissance. Tell them Bobito sent you. You might get a discount. You may not. Just say they sent you. That's what I'm saying.
It's worth a try.
Get a 0% discount.
We're not giving you a code. We're giving you a suggestion.
Yeah. It's like going down to the water and go, Flobo sent me here. So our mission gets on to the USS Teacoff to find a organic or a clear or a pure seed of this plant, our MacGuffin for the week. And my girl, Commander Nunn, gets to go down. Because one of the reasons being is that the last caretakers were a Barzan family, and you got to see that moment. It's like the Discovery equivalent of the red shirt, right? Where someone goes, "Hey, I have emotional connections to this planet or space. Let me go with you." Oh no, no, don't do it. Skipping ahead, Nan had her. She decided to stay. But before we get to that point, this thoughts about having this Teacoff ship with this caretaker dynamic. I'm sorry with you, John. This caretaker dynamic, the sea dynamic, just the idea of this for this episode.
Well, you know that this already exists here on Earth. Like, we do have somewhere in one of the Scandinavian countries. I should have looked this up, but we do actually here on Earth. We do have a vault for seeds, and they have not been. They've not crossed over with anything that's genetically modified. These seeds are in their pristine original version, and they are being stored in case anything goes so bad with our environment that we lose the original recipe, basically, for, corn and ferns.
So you're saying it's okay to use fossil fuels? Yeah, thanks, John. This is awesome. Take that, Tesla. No, I'm just kidding.
Commander's Log, brought to you by Roxxon. The badly veiled reference to Exxon that Marvel's been using forever. Roxxon.
Right.
For the future. Yeah, no, that really exists. So the fact that they would have that in the future, I mean, honestly, that's really cool that like 930 years ago, this ship existed and it still exists. That's really cool.
Hey, because plot, right? But
well, that's the whole point. I mean, the whole point to having that ship at all is that you want it to exist as long as it can to keep, again, these unspoiled seeds of these original plants. Because the plant in question has mutated over the centuries due to radiation. So they need the original recipe. And they're going after it. It's on the, how do you say it again? I keep wanting to say Tuvok.
The ship is the Teacoff.
The Teacoff.
Tikov. Teacoff.
Like the teacup at Disneyland, or those teacups. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. And that was it. But it was kind of cool that the last caretakers, the final caretakers, or the current were a Barzan family. My girl, Commander Nunn, gets to go. And much like my girl, Tasha Yar, she met her demise. Not by death, but by hanging behind. Because I think our moral dilemma, like to your point, Joe, about current events and happening, is about the right to die. Right? And so we have the guy that was there that wanted to be with his family because that's the way Barzans get down. And then you had Michael Burnham being like, no, I can't live with this information being lost. And it seems like a very easy situation on the surface. Oh, let them die, whatever. But then Michael Burnham does bring some gravitas to the alternative of making sure no one's left behind. Was the right decision made, in your opinion, there, Joe?
I'm sorry.
Was the right decision of allowing the doctor to stay behind and having stay with him, or would have you pulled an order?
Absolutely, because you have to measure where you're going to be in your destiny in your future by where you're going to be the most useful and fulfilled, and that was clearly in the episode where she needed to be. She could have been a valuable resource and crew member to continue on Discovery, but no, that's where she needed to be. She needed to help the widower and who had lost his family through that crisis and to keep that going. So yes, sometimes the best decisions are not command decisions, and as it were, they're moral and like I say, fulfillment decisions. So yes, Michael was very, very wise and proper in saying yes. I hate to see it, he's lost a lot of valued crew members over the past 3 seasons, through one way or another. But no, that was the right move for sure.
Yeah, and we are at a point where every crew member on Discovery really counts because there were so few. I suppose now that they're at Starfleet, they can bring a lot of people with them. But for a while there, we had like 88, Flobo? Was that the last number we were at?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
the point is saying, for now, let's just keep it as is, meaning I'm not anticipating a lot of crew transfers either. So I think they're going to be kind of a skeleton crew for a while longer, as it were.
That would work for me. I'm okay with that.
I totally agree.
As soon as I pick a favorite character, something always happens. She's off screen.
Yes, that's true.
Have we seen the last of Nan? Will she return in a great glory scene of return, a Deus Ex Machina moment, or do you think she's pretty much written off for good?
I could see her coming back. I mean, I just hope it's not in a gratuitous and cameo way. I'd like to see a significant reason. Yeah, I know, Flobo, you would have her back in anyway, even if it's just like a loving gazer photo, from Michael.
See, he gets it. Joe.
He does. Because if Flobo could have that hologram of Tasha Yar, that Data has, if he could have that, he would visit that every night.
Well, I've talked to people over the years that if there was such thing as a holodeck, why would I ever come out?
Hey, Joe, send more lotion. What?
Replicator, box of Kleenex, soft.
We're gonna lose our family rating. It's okay. Joe, what about you, man? Do you think? Sorry.
Is it possible for a return? Want it to be worthwhile, just for storytelling purposes, or like I said, just a flash image for Flobo's satisfaction would be fine too.
Fan service for me only.
That's right.
We call it Flobo service.
There you go.
I think Kleenex is now. What do you think, John? Is she coming back?
Honestly, yeah. This is a very coordinated show. They really don't like to leave the threads hanging. Off the top of my head, the joke teller in me says, season 5, the episode right before the finale. There will be a coming together. There will be a return of some people. Obviously, we can't have a lot of people who now exist in the past and are dead. But of what we're meeting now, there will be a convergence at some point. We will. Nan was such a great character. I loved her. Absolutely loved her. And the fact that you could have her as engineering or as security, that's classic. Worf was both engineering and security. That's classic. So I really loved her. And the emotional range in the character this episode was so sweet. I didn't see that coming. I knew she had a lot of feelings, but she was tough and she kept them inside.
Well, remember the one line of dialogue when they were on the ship there. It says, "Real air, real eyes." Yeah. You got to see how she, really emoted through her eyes, and at that point. And you know what, John, to your point, I mean, the whole point of the season is bringing the Federation back together. How else do you do that besides bringing people back together?
Right. So, and that's a great point.
Yeah, thank you. That could be a very important plot device. Again, episode 11, 12, So hang in the Flobo. She's coming back. That's our prediction.
I'm going to write that in my diary. Your diary.
Can I bust out my Easter eggs now?
Whatever you want, baby.
All right. I don't mean to slow down talking about the plot, but I got to get these in before I forget them. First off, there's the distortion field, right? So they approach, Starfleet, and it's a distortion field, and then they fly through it now. All this wonder. Gee, what does that remind me of? Wakanda forever! This is my ongoing argument that 930 years in the future, the universe finally catches up with Wakanda.
That'd be about right.
They've got
So
those
vibranium
controls.
caused the burn. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, well, hey, you laugh, but I think you got something there, Flobo.
I laugh because it's stupid. That's why I'm
That was crazy to me that like they fly. And now I guess it's been done a million times. You go through a hologram wall and there's this beautiful stuff. I mean, lots of people have done it, but still, this show steals so much from Wakanda. It makes me crazy. Okay, one of my other favorite things to point out, the Canadian Easter eggs. And I'm kind of jumping ahead here, Flobo. So you've got Michelle Yeoh.
Okay.
And she's being I always forget her name. And she thought she should be an admiral. Giorgio.
Okay.
So Giorgio is being interrogated by holograms, and there's a guy behind her who wears glasses, and she keeps paying attention to him, and the holograms are like, don't pay attention to him. And then finally she freaks out the holograms, which was brilliant. She's got a way of like blinking really fast that makes the holograms unable to like maintain, which takes me back to the Star Trek. Everything he says is a lie. I'm lying. But if you're lying and everything you say is a lie, shh. So you got that breakdown of technology with, the weirdo human. And then she's talking one-on-one with this interrogator. Do you know who played the interrogator?
Oh, he sure looked familiar.
Yeah, he did.
I do not.
I had to look it up. David Cronenberg.
David Cronenberg, that was him?
Whoa, why does that sound familiar? What's he from?
David Cronenberg from Scanners.
Yeah.
And Rabies and, Dead Ringers. David Cronenberg. So this show is so good at getting us great Canadians. I love it so much.
It's so cheap. I really thought they were going to bang, but let's talk about this. So Giorgio's getting interrogated, and it turns out her whole world is turned upside down because the Terran Empire fell as our good old friend Dana Cronenberg got to her heart and was like, you care for someone. Now, we all thought it was Michael. It has to be Michael, or
it has to be Michael.
Joe, question. What was this about? What is on Giorgio's mind? Why was she staring into space at the end of the show? Is it Michael? Is it somebody else? She really missed pizza, tearing people. What's going on?
Well, Giorgio being the former, empress of the mirror universe, she can turn her sights on anybody. I think there is a genuine, for lack of a better word, affection or at least attention for Burnham. But beneath it all, I have to wonder, and maybe this isn't fair of me to do it, but where is this heading? I mean, as far as I know, there's still going to be a Section 31 series. She's going to be part of it. That takes place in the 23rd century. How's she getting back?
Oh, my God.
And maybe we're planting the seeds of that now.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Maybe it was not a ball school. Maybe she doesn't go back. Maybe he's a third Giorgio. Maybe. I have no idea.
I don't know. I mean, I guess they could do it without her, but it sure seems that she'd be able to keep her mouth shut so as not to ruin continuity. If you went back to the 23rd. What's that?
Yeah, what's continuity? I have no idea. It's the Kelvin timeline, bro. I don't know.
That's right.
I love a good retcon.
I'm still dropping some seeds of, some hints along those lines, but in the more direct, more immediate concern, there's something about Burnham that ties into her past and her present. So I think that's definitely her focal point, but she certainly doesn't hesitate to, quote unquote, flirt with others, if that's the right word. Particularly our David Cronenberg character.
I swear they were going to bang. They were just, the eye game was strong.
Maybe they did.
What is with that's why he's like the 1,000-yard stare. I was disappointed. Sorry, that's terrible. I take it back. But why Burnham? John, let me ask you. We all have these ideas and theories. Mother figure, very similar to the class of Prime Giorgio. That seems to be the most easiest example in these chats or these groups. Right. But why does someone who's so motivated about what she can get now, why is someone like that longing for Burnham?
Well, I think the short answer for that is that she, as you just said, she is aware of her Prime Universe counterpart, and she is aware of their genuine affection for each other as both friends and as officers. And I think that just has resulted in the one true emotional element of the mirror Giorgio character, and Michael Burnham is the focus of that. And John, sorry, I may have cut you off. But anyway, please expand.
Oh no, I'm right where you are. I think, and I think we have like a really good storytelling here. I studied script writing in the 80s, and we had a book that was written in the 60s. And one of the things that it always imparted, and my teacher was right to use this old book, which was stories about people, stories about people. And, if you ever want to tell a big sprawling story, the best way to tell it is through the simplest relationships and the simplest connections. And sometimes something as simple as I just feel familial feelings for this other person, whether it makes sense with how evil I am or how violent I am. I still have these connections, like it or not, whether I like it or not. And that's where I am right now with Giorgio, though I'm hearing what you're saying in terms of there might be someone else. There might be some other connection she has, because the Michael connection has been done on this show.
Yeah. I feel
so
like
is that the future?
There are plenty of times if there was a confession of love that would have happened. I really think there's something specific there, like an object or a truth or a story. Because you go, like I can love you all the time, but if like I'm going to the future, I'm good. Hey, I like the way you make pizza rolls. That'd be it. I would just tell her out. I would just I'm clean there. I wouldn't even go with you. You know what I'm saying? I don't. Maybe I'm weird. Maybe I'm weird.
Hey. And I'll tell you, my head is rocked by what you said, Joe, because if she's going to get back in time in order to be part of Section 31, which she should be because she is a megastar, then there is something weird. There is something that she's going through that is not parallel to what everybody on Discovery is going through. They're going in that direction, and she's going in her own direction. Something's going to happen here. No idea what.
Good. Also, they did make reference to the Temporal Cold War, which made time travel illegal ultimately. Illegal, not impossible.
Right. Right.
So maybe that as yet unknown connection will be part of that device to get her back to the wild times of the 23rd century.
That's a writer for you. He saw a hole.
Always thinking.
He's like that quarterback who's reading the field. Like, I can't get between those two goons over there, but I can probably run around that skinny guard over there.
It comes in handy now, but when your best friend calls you, say, "I'll be 15 minutes late," you have 1,001 reasons in your head why they are, and it sucks. But the other exchange I thought was pretty cool about Giorgio during her interrogation, and it was like, all Terrans are duplicitous by their biology or biplicitous by their duology, which made me look it up. I was like, what is biplicitous? It's not a word. But I was on board, man. It totally made sense to me. I thought that was pretty cool that Giorgio is aware, like you're saying, is here for a reason. Hopefully she gets what she's looking for when it comes to that. Just one question, this is a little off topic. This season, more than any other seasons of Star Trek Discovery, I feel like Culver has become like the Greek chorus for a lot of the future play. He's on more missions. He gets to go down the ground more. It's all bringing the doctor to Medbay to the bridge, which doesn't usually happen. I just want your thoughts about that. Do you think that's a conscious effort? Do you think the story just lends itself to it? Do you think that is it? Hey man, Culver's amazing. Let's do more of him. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm kind of interested in John's opinion first, actually.
Oh, I have a huge opinion on this.
Then you definitely.
If you guys don't, it's okay. I was just curious.
Honestly, I start to wonder. Well, okay, for me, it starts personally because Deep Space Nine is my favorite series, and I really felt like when they finally found a way to give Dr. Bashir like some weight on his shoulders, because he's carrying around this lie for his whole life that he's genetically altered, and you're not supposed to be, and it's illegal, and he should be in jail. And then everything he did after that was weighted and had a lot of like heart and a lot of like he's got to get himself out of bed every day and face these demons kind of thing. And what we've gotten with Dr. Culver is he is the first character. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm probably wrong, but I feel like he's the first character on Discovery that really has to carry this weight. every single day, that he was killed and that he was resurrected in a place where he was tortured every day of his life. And he was turned into a wild man, and he lost everything. He lost his love. He lost his connection to humans. He lost everything, and he got it back. And now I feel like this soul, this much bigger, much more evolved soul that he has, gives us someone who isn't Suru to be the wise, sweet, loving, guiding, nurturing person. Because Suru is that all the time, and we need somebody else to carry that weight sometimes. That's where I think he is. I think he's so easy to use because he's wise and he's very compassionate.
Yeah.
Well, damaged and repaired, which is an even deeper level of that wisdom. And I mean, you would take McCoy all the time, even though he's your primary physician. Yes. Well, there's always room to be in the landing party. Same thing going on here with Dr. Culver. I mean, like I said, you tend to forget almost that he went through all that just because of how he came out the other side.
Right.
But it definitely adds dimension, as you say, to the character to make him a part of that type part of the action in the stories.
And this was the first episode where I thought, man, he's so much like McCoy.
Yeah.
Because one of the great dualities that was in the original Star Trek was you had the brain and the heart. The brain is Spock and the heart is McCoy. And somewhere in between them is Kirk.
Right.
Although Kirk's also the fists.
He is everything. This is why everything he's OP. Like he could beat Batman or something,
He's pretty he's pretty Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, he is. No, I totally agree with you. He is pretty Bruce Wayne. Some random notes here. I realized that I've been saying Joanne's name all wrong. Before the break, I was saying her name is Owoshikun, or Owo, as they say. Our Keelys were ill on Erna. I said ill on Erna is my new rap album. And okay, so my next question is this. We are now with Starfleet. Vance has kind of let them into the fold, but doesn't tell them everything, which will be too easy for us as viewers. Right. Predictions. I'm going to start with you, Joe. What do you think happens now as far as the dynamic of Starfleet? Do our crew change their uniforms? Did it become being merged with a bigger crew? What do you see the show going now that they've made contact with Starfleet?
Well, on those 2 points in particular, I'll say this. I think that we will not see any change in the actual aesthetics, uniforms, etc., only because I think this admiral, and probably wisely so from where he stands, where he sits, actually, what he said, he wants them separate. This is the separate, arm of Starfleet. They serve a special purpose. They have special abilities that no other ship in the fleet has. They have that spore drive. They can go anywhere. I think we might see more planets and more locations. So I think in terms of all that, I think we're going to see them stay pretty much the same in terms of how they look, how they operate, and so forth. That's why I'm also not seeing a lot of crew transfers, at least toward the end of the season, possibly.
Yeah.
And I think that each new locale is going to take them closer to that connectivity I mentioned earlier about bringing the Federation together again. Who knows? Maybe one of these worlds maybe just has a whole S load of dilithium just waiting to be mined. That was somehow spared, or they find a different way. That would be more. I think it'd be more satisfying. I think thematically, it's like, okay, dilithium's gone. Let's find another way. That would be a reference of achievement to the season, I think.
And please correct my thinking, either one of you fellas. Unmined dilithium still exists. So if you mine it, you can have dilithium at this point. But all dilithium that was in a ship or in a warp core.
Right.
All dilithium.
I think it's kind of the same. If it's working dilithium, like I said, the Suru I think bluffed his way with the United Earth Defense Force by saying, "Well, we weren't at warp speed when the burn happened." Well, my impression was that didn't matter. If it was just in the ship and it was operating within a warp core, boom.
Yeah.
So they maybe even use dilithium if they find a whole planet full of the stuff. That's why I'm thinking maybe they'll go another direction and have that next big achievement scientifically. But no, I agree with your interpretation, John. I think that any raw dilithium would be just there. Yeah. I think it had to be connected to a warp core in a starship to explode the way it did in the burn.
You would think after like 3 or 4 previously on Star Trek Discovery, you would think after 3 or 4 of those, it would have stayed up here. But, I smoke pot. So,
and I don't know if they really have gotten too deep into it, to be honest with you. I mean, I've been paying attention, and I think that may be another mystery to be solved yet. And sometimes the best mysteries that are solved, we don't know our mysteries to begin with until they are solved.
Right. Oh, you know what? Having authors for friends is fun. Because you learn a lot about storytelling.
Every once in a while, something really brilliant comes out. So, bless them when they do, because it doesn't happen often. At least from here.
Yeah.
Well, on the other hand,
yeah. Well, I don't know what the weed is. I have no idea. That door, the teacup was locked when I checked. So I was smoking these fennel seeds. That's all I had was fennel.
Oh my God! I didn't even think of that. So, where do you guys keep your sensimilia? Indica strains mostly, or you got some sativas too? Where are you guys going?
It's like
John Weber's Space Stoner.
Hope head's blowing up. You're like, what's the next hit? John, what about you, man? What do you want to see in the next couple of weeks, man? Are you pacing's good this time around? Did you want to see some kind of new planets? Like, what you looking for in the next couple weeks ahead?
I was really interested in watching the previews for the next episode where we get to see Book again. Yeah. Apparently, he's been jailed. So stereotypical.
No. I know, right? Where's his legal counsel? They're probably overworked there too. No.
Even in the future, man. So there he is, and they're going to rescue him. They're going to rescue all these people, and there's all these explosions, and it's going to. I wonder if we're going to get to the point already in the show. Do you remember this happened a lot in the original Star Trek, where it was like, this is the episode that's a Western. This is the episode that's a legal drama. Right. Like they started, so now they're doing a breakout, now they're doing a prison break. But we'll see. I mean, I want to see Booker again. I really want to see Grudge because I'm a big fan of that cat.
Is Grudge or non? Is that what it says?
Well, after I'm done, hugging all the redheaded crew members, I do like to pet the kitty. That's true.
Well, speaking of redhead, before we get out of here, we had a lot of redhead action on screen this week. Stamets and Tilly together, where they said, "quote Dysfunction is the crew." It's pretty awesome. Just for the redhead report, John, were you satisfied with all your redheads in play this episode?
I am. We got to see a little more Detmer, and Detmer, as we know, her job is very hard on her. It's very tough on her. I also love that Stamets and I just call her Tig Notaro. Jet Reno.
Jet Reno, yeah. She is Tig Notaro.
In the
future.
future.
She's not being a character at all. It's Tig Notaro in space. That's exactly what that is.
But I love that little thing. I think it's funny that they make this whole thing about, this is dysfunction, because it's like, well, I'm sorry, but Tilly is not dysfunctional. Tilly gets along with everybody. But yeah, sure, you two can label her as dysfunctional, whatever. But I do like that because, as you know, because you've both hung out with very brilliant people, me. No, you have very brilliant friends, and as you know, it causes friction. It causes sparks, and that's one of the great things. I always tell my friends when we fight, look, we're just smart people, and we love professional wrestling, and so we honestly think that fighting is being creative, and conflict is being creative. So
stick it, man.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding.
That's a good thing.
I don't hate you.
As far as the immediate future, I would really like to get past. I guess I'm going to echo what Joe was saying, and I would really like to get past the burn as being a question that requires 10 episodes or 11 episodes. Let's just get to what the burn was. Let's figure out who the bad guys were in that. Let's figure out how they did it. Unfold that. That's fine with me. But let's not keep ask. What's the burn? That question is better not asked. Thank you.
Because I haven't figured it out yet. Oh, okay.
And this is the series, as I harangue Flobo all the time. This is the series that jumps ahead like crazy. Like, when in the first season of a Star Trek have you ever gone to the mirror universe? I don't think that's ever happened.
True.
So-
It spoils you.
No, it
'Cause
hasn't.
again, you go back to TOS, TNG, you're like, get on. 23 episodes a season? Get on with it. You know? A trial episode, you did one of those last season. Okay. You get to be very bratty. I apologize. But it's high time to get out of here, man. We gotta land the USS Postshow. Fantastic time. Hanging with Joe Townsel, hanging with John
Wow.
Weber. Joe, gotta ask you first, man. Where can people stalk you, read all your books, hit you up, ask for writing advice for their sci-fi epics?
Well, as you can see, if I can get my finger in the right place, right there is where you can visit me and learn about all my works. The most recent being Mate to Order, available now. Apple Books is kind of trailing a little bit, but it's available elsewhere, both as paperback and ebook and all the major retailers. I am on Flobo's suggestion on our last conversation. I am currently building a much bigger presence so I can interact directly with fellow authors and readers. So look for that on Twitter and elsewhere. And for the time being, JoeTownsel.com is the place to go to learn all about me and what I do.
Wait, hold on. Is Made to Order a sci-fi book?
It is sci-fi horror. I will say that much. It is. I'll say this much about it. It's 4 books in one. They are connected, but they also stand alone for the most part. But it starts off frivolously enough with an Android dating service, which gets out of control.
Whoa, sci-fi horror.
yeah,
Shout out to
baby.
Kurtzman. Nah, I'm just that's copyrighted. John Weber, where can people find you online, good sir?
You can find me at Hello John Weber on Twitter and on Instagram, or you could just look for John Weber on Facebook. I'm wearing a wrestling mask in my personal profile, so it'll be hard to recognize me, but still, it's exciting.
That's what happened when you smoke that space weed, kids. Say no. This
Great.
is Commander's Log every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's the official Star Trek Discovery post show. Maybe we should do more of these, man. I don't know if we should do Lower Decks or we should do like Star Season 2. I don't know. It's an idea. A thought. If you want to know about the shows I'm working on, newamsterdam.com. That's KNW Amsterdam.com. And if you want to buy yourself a snazzy shirt like this one, flobito.threadless.com. Once again, that's flobito.threadless.com. Support the homies. But until next time, you know the deal. Live long.
Oh, I always do the wrong hand. There.